Let me tell you something that stings at first, but frees you forever. Nobody cares. Not about your excuses. Not about your past. Not about your pain. And that is your greatest advantage. We spend years waiting. Waiting for someone to notice our struggle. Waiting for someone to believe in us. Waiting for a break, a rescue, a sign. But here's the truth. The world keeps spinning, no matter what you're going through. And once you realize that, once you stop expecting the world to care, you finally get to take your power back. By the end of this message, you won't be begging for support. You'll be building your future. And they'll have to care when they see what you become. Stop waiting for permission. You've waited long enough. You've waited for the timing to be right, for someone to give you the green light, for someone to tell you, yes, now's your moment. But life doesn't hand out permission slips. It hands out opportunity in disguise. And most people miss it while they're waiting for applause. I used to sit in rooms full of potential. People smarter than me, more connected than me, more educated than me. And I thought, if I just get noticed, they'll bring me in. They'll invite me to the table. But you know what I learned? Nobody's coming. Nobody's waking up thinking about your dream. That's your job. I met a young man once. Bright eyes, full of ideas, passion just pouring out of him. He told me he had a vision to start a business. I said, "What's stopping you?" He said, "Well, my family doesn't really support it. My friends think it's too risky. I'm just waiting for the right time." I said, "The right time isn't coming, and neither is their validation. If you need them to believe before you build, you'll never build at all. Let me tell you what you really need. A decision. One honest moment where you say to yourself, this is my life, and I no longer need permission to live it. The moment you stop waiting is the moment you start winning. Psychologically, we've been conditioned since childhood to ask for permission, permission to speak, permission to go, permission to act. So we carry that into adulthood, and it paralyzes us. We internalize the fear of rejection, of failure, of judgment. But the real danger isn't in being told no. It's in never asking why not. When I finally made that decision myself, to stop needing approval and start taking action, everything changed. Not because the world got easier, but because I got clearer. When you move without needing applause, you become dangerous. You become focused. You become free. Do you think the greats waited for permission? You think Elon Musk asked permission to dream about rockets? You think Oprah waited for the world to say, yes, we're ready for you? No, they stepped forward when everyone else stood still. And that's why we remember their names. And here's the irony. Once you stop asking for permission, people start offering it. They see your commitment, your consistency, your conviction. And they say, wow, I believe in you. But by then, you don't need it. You've already built the foundation within yourself. So let me ask you, what have you been waiting for? Whose approval have you been chasing? And what would your life look like if you didn't need it anymore? Because you don't. This is your permission. Right here, right now. Go, build, start messy, start scared. But for the love of your future, start. The world doesn't need another person waiting to be picked. It needs someone bold enough to pick themselves. Your excuses are not special. I know that might sound harsh, but it's true. And the sooner you accept it, the sooner you take control of your life. Because every day, people all over the world wake up with reasons not to grow, and still grow anyway. They face mountains and still climb. The first time I heard this idea, it hit me like a brick. I was broke. I was behind. I had every reason in the world to point fingers. My background? Poor. My knowledge? Lacking. My self-esteem? Non-existent. But someone looked me in the eye and said, Jim, you can keep telling your story, or you can start writing a new one. That moment changed everything. Because here's the truth. Excuses are seductive. They dress up as logic. They sound reasonable. They make you feel safe. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money. I wasn't raised in the right environment. And maybe all of that is real, but it's not relevant. Not if you're serious. I once met a woman who raised 3 kids alone worked 2 jobs, and still found time every night to study for her nursing degree. She didn't whine. She worked. She didn't wait for the perfect moment. She built with what she had. Was it fair? No. Was it possible? Yes, because she decided her future mattered more than her excuses. Excuses are comforting, but they're not empowering. They keep you where you are. And worse, they trick you into thinking it's noble. Like you're a victim of life instead of a creator of it. But if you want freedom, if you want progress, you have to get brutally honest. What have I been using to protect my limitations? There's always someone with less doing more. And there's always someone with more doing less. The difference isn't in their circumstances. It's in their choices. And your choices, not your conditions, are what shape your future. And don't misunderstand me. I'm not dismissing your struggle. I'm inviting you to rise through it, because when you drop the excuse, you pick up the power. And that trade is worth everything. One of the most dangerous beliefs is, no one understands my situation. Maybe they don't. But do you want to be understood, or do you want to be free? Because those are different outcomes. One keeps you stuck. The other gets you moving. Here's the challenge. Write down your top excuses. The ones you rehearse so well, they feel like truth. And then ask yourself this: what if I could never use these again? Who would I have to become? What would I be forced to do? That version of you, the one who outgrows excuses and outworks obstacles, is already inside you. So stop waiting for a perfect past. Start building a better future. Because the moment you drop the excuse is the moment you pick up the pen and start writing the life you were meant to live. Obsession beats motivation. Motivation is a spark. Obsession is a fire that never goes out. Motivation gets you started. Obsession keeps you going long after everyone else has quit. See, motivation is loud at first, then it fades. Obsession whispers in your ear at 2 a.m. when the world is sleeping and says, keep going. I used to think I just needed to get more motivated. I'd wait for a new video, a new book, a new quote, something to ignite me. And sure, it worked for a moment, but then came fatigue, the doubts, the hard days. And I realized motivation doesn't survive those. Obsession does. Think about this. The people who truly make it, who build things that last, who leave legacies, they aren't the most motivated. They're the most obsessed. They don't need reminders. They live inside the mission. Every step they take is connected to the vision they've locked into. You ever seen someone obsessed with their craft? It's not casual. It's not balanced. It's borderline irrational. But that's what it takes. Kobe Bryant was obsessed. He'd show up before sunrise, already sweating before the team arrived. He didn't rely on motivation. He relied on ritual. Obsession became his standard. Psychologically, obsession comes from deep emotional attachment. Not just what you're doing, but why. When your reason is real enough, personal enough, painful enough, you don't try to stay consistent. You can't afford not to be. I knew a man who lost his job, his house, and nearly his marriage. And he swore to himself, never again. He started a small business, nothing glamorous, just a trade. And while others watched TV at night, he studied. While others rested on weekends, he built. 5 years later, he had financial freedom. Not because he was motivated, but because he was obsessed with never going backward again. That kind of hunger can't be faked. And once you taste what obsession feels like, you'll never want to settle for motivated again. Motivation fades with emotion. Obsession grows with action. Every rep, every hour, every hard choice, it compounds. And the more you feed it, the more it feeds you back. Momentum is born from obsession, not from good vibes. Now, I'm not saying obsession is easy. It'll cost you comfort. It'll confuse your friends. People will say you're doing too much. Let them. They'll call it crazy until it works. And here's the key. Choose your obsession carefully. Make sure it's tied to your growth, your values, your purpose. Because whatever you chase obsessively, you will become. So, don't settle for bursts of motivation. Build the discipline of obsession. Let it wake you up early. Let it make you uncomfortable. Let it pull you past excuses and through resistance. Because at the end of the day, the person who wants it the most isn't the one who's hyped. It's the one who's obsessed. And once you cross that line, once it stops being a wish and becomes a must, you'll realize that's when the real transformation begins. Be so focused they feel ignored. That line isn't about being rude. It's about being ruthless with your time, your energy, and your future. You see, most people don't lose their focus all at once. It slips away little by little. A few distractions here, a few opinions there, and before they know it, they're living someone else's priorities instead of building their own. I remember a season in my life when I was constantly accessible. Every call, every text, every invite, I was there. I thought I was being kind. I thought I was being connected. But I wasn't growing. I wasn't moving. I was just reacting. One day, I looked at my calendar and I realized something sobering. I was showing up for everyone except myself. That's when I made the shift. I stopped explaining. I stopped apologizing. I stopped making room for distractions that weren't aligned with my mission. And yes, some people felt ignored. But the truth is, they weren't used to me choosing my purpose over their presence. Psychologically, we're wired to seek belonging. We don't want to upset others. We want to be liked. But growth doesn't come from being liked. It comes from being laser-focused. And not everyone will understand that. They're not supposed to. I once spoke with a young entrepreneur who told me, "My friends say I've changed." I said, "Good. That means you're growing." When you're truly focused, you will outgrow some conversations. You'll drift from certain circles. And people may feel uncomfortable. That's not your problem. That's the price of progress. Look at history. Thomas Edison wasn't making small talk when he was inventing light. He was failing 1,000 times, alone. Beethoven didn't hear applause while composing. He heard silence, and he stayed with it. Greatness demands solitude. It demands tunnel vision. Not forever, but for a while. And when people ask, "Why haven't I heard from you?" tell them, "Because I've been hearing for my goals." Focus creates friction. It will trigger guilt. It will test your boundaries. But every no you say to them is a deeper yes to you. Yes to your vision. Yes to your craft. Yes to your discipline. You don't owe anyone constant access to your energy, especially not at the cost of your calling. So don't be afraid to disappear for a season. Work in silence. Let your results make the noise. Be so committed, so intentional, so immersed that the only thing louder than your absence is your progress. And if they feel ignored, that's okay. Because when the work is done, when the seed you planted becomes a tree, when the noise quiets and your focus pays off, they won't feel ignored anymore. They'll feel inspired. They won't clap until you win. And sometimes, not even then. See, most people won't recognize the grind. They won't see the nights you stayed up late. They won't count the times you failed. They won't understand the self-doubt, the sacrifices, or the silence you had to walk through just to take one more step forward. Why? Because applause doesn't come in the struggle. It comes after the spotlight. But here's what you must understand. If you wait for the world to clap for you, you'll wait forever. Success is not a popularity contest. It's a private contract between you and your potential. When I first started my journey, I thought support would be natural. I assumed people close to me would cheer me on. But instead, I heard things like, "Why don't you just play it safe? Don't get your hopes up." And worse, silence. No validation. No encouragement. Nothing. And at first, it stung. I took it personally. But then I realized it wasn't about me. It was about them. Their fears. Their limitations. Their inability to dream beyond what they've seen. You must get this. People clap for results, not for efforts. That's the truth. They celebrate the visible, not the invisible. They show up when you've already made it, not when you're making your way. And if you don't learn to clap for yourself, you'll crumble under their silence. There's a famous story about Sylvester Stallone. Before Rocky made him a star, he was broke, rejected by every studio, even had to sell his dog to survive. Nobody clapped. Nobody cared. But he kept writing, kept pitching. And when he finally got the green light, on his terms, They all applauded. Suddenly, he was a genius. But nothing about him changed. What changed was the scoreboard. Psychologically, we crave recognition. It feels good to be seen. But when that craving becomes a requirement, it turns into a trap. You start working for validation instead of vision. And the second the applause fades, so does your drive. So here's the lesson. Don't perform for claps. Prepare for the calling. The calling will carry you when no one's watching. It'll fuel you when the room is quiet. And one day, when you win, because you will, the same people who look past you will look up to you. But by then, you won't need the noise, because you'll have something far more valuable, self-respect. You'll know who you became in the dark before the light. So if they're not clapping yet, good. It means you're still in the proving ground. Keep working, keep building, keep becoming, because one day the silence will break and the world will rise to its feet. But not because you beg for it, because you earned it. Turn pain into fuel. Life will break you open before it builds you up. That's just how it works. You'll face betrayal, failure, heartbreak, and rejection. And when it hits, it won't ask for permission. It just shows up uninvited, unwelcome, and undeniable. But here's the truth you've got to swallow, no matter how bitter it tastes. Pain is inevitable, but staying broken is a choice. I once met a man who lost everything in a single year, his job, his home, and his marriage. He told me, "Jim, I wake up every morning with this tightness in my chest. I don't know what to do with it." I said, "You're sitting on a gold mine. That tightness, that ache, that's energy, raw, powerful energy. Now you can let it destroy you, or you can learn to direct it. See, pain is energy in its most primal form. And like any energy, it can power destruction or transformation. It can burn you down or build your fire. The difference lies in how you channel it. Think about the most resilient people in history. Nelson Mandela didn't emerge from 27 years in prison bitter and broken. He walked out with purpose. That pain became his platform. Thomas Edison failed over 1,000 times before inventing the light bulb. But he said, "I didn't fail. I just found 1,000 ways that won't work." That's not optimism. That's fuel in action. The mind is wired for meaning. When pain has no meaning, it becomes a wound. But when pain gains purpose, it becomes fuel. It drives you. It sharpens you. It refines your focus. Ask yourself, what if the worst thing that happened to you was actually your greatest opportunity? What if the breakup, the breakdown, the betrayal was the beginning of your breakthrough? Psychologically, pain pushes us into fight, flight, or freeze. Most people freeze. Some run. Few fight. But the ones who fight, they grow. Because in pain, there is clarity. It reveals who you really are. Who's for you? Who's not? What matters? What doesn't? And when everything falls apart, you finally see what's worth rebuilding. Now, I'm not saying to enjoy the pain. I'm saying use it. Don't numb it. Don't hide it. Face it. Feel it. Then transform it. Write the book. Start the business. Build the body. Launch the dream. Not in spite of the pain, but because of it. Every scar has a story. And every story has power, if you choose to tell it with purpose, not pity. So the next time life hits you hard, don't ask, "Why me?" Ask, "What now?" Then take that pain, bottle it up, and pour it into your craft, into your work, into your mission. Because the same pain that once tried to break you might just be the fire that finally builds you. Success is a daily decision, not a moment, not a miracle, not a one-time leap. It's a quiet, steady, deliberate decision, made over and over again, long after the mood you made it has faded. You don't stumble into success. You build your way there, one choice, one action, one disciplined day at a time. Years ago, I met a young man who wanted to turn his life around. He said, "Jim, I've tried everything. I watch motivational videos. I make big plans. But then I fall back again." I asked him, "How many days in a row have you honored the plan you made?" He paused and said, "None." That's the difference. Success isn't about intensity. It's about consistency. You can be inspired once, but you can't succeed once. You have to show up daily because habits build destiny. And your habits are shaped by the small decisions you make when nobody's watching. You won't always feel like doing it. That's normal. Your emotions will try to negotiate with your standards. They'll whisper, "Just today, take it easy." But success doesn't care how you feel. It only responds to what you do. Psychologically, the brain loves the path of least resistance. It craves comfort, predictability, and ease. That's why the alarm clock feels like a threat. That's why the workout feels like a burden. That's why reading the book, making the call, showing up early, it all feels hard at first. But here's the key. The more you choose discipline over distraction, the more you rewire your identity. You stop saying, "I want to be successful," and you start living like someone who already is. One of the greatest examples is Kobe Bryant. He didn't train because it was convenient. He trained when it wasn't. Early mornings, late nights, no applause, no shortcuts. Why? Because he made the decision daily, not just to play, but to be the best. And that mindset outworked talent. It outlasted pressure. It built legacy. Every morning, you have a decision to make. Do I act according to my goals or my feelings? One leads to greatness. The other leads to regret. Here's the truth few want to admit. Success is boring. It's routine. It's repetition. But within that repetition is power. You're not trying to change your whole life in one day. You're building a life that doesn't need changing. So what do? Start small. In the morning, show up for your commitments. Speak with intention. Keep your word to yourself. Stack those decisions day after day until your actions become your identity. Success won't knock on your door one day and announce itself. It'll show up quietly in the life you built when no one was clapping. Decide today and decide again tomorrow. Because every day you choose growth over comfort, you don't just get closer to success. You become it. Your standards create your future, not your dreams, not your intentions, not your goals written in a notebook. It's your standards, the minimum you're willing to tolerate from yourself. That shape where your life goes. You don't rise to the level of your desires. You fall to the level of your standards. And the hard truth is, most people have set theirs far too low. I once spoke to a man who kept saying, "One day, I'm going to be successful." I'm meant for more. But every time I saw him, he was late, unprepared, distracted. He talked like a leader, but lived like a follower. His standards and his vision were in conflict. And guess what always wins? Your standard. Because your standard isn't what you say in front of others. It's what you accept when no one's watching. High performers don't get lucky. They get serious. They hold themselves to a level most people aren't willing to touch. They do the work when it's inconvenient. They go the extra mile even when no one's clapping. That's not motivation. That's standard. Look at people like Serena Williams. She didn't become a champion by hoping she'd play well. Her entire routine, her diet, her sleep, her mindset was calibrated to the highest standard because she wasn't trying to win once. She was trying to become someone who wins consistently. That's the difference. When you raise your standard, everything around you must rise to match it or fall away. And yes, that means some people will drift. Some habits will have to die. But that's the price of growth, letting go of what no longer fits the future you're building. Psychologically, this shift is powerful because when you change your standard, you change your identity. You stop asking, "What can I get away with?" and start demanding more from yourself, more discipline, more focus, more excellence. And once your identity catches up with your standard, your future begins to bend in that direction. Ask yourself, what am I currently tolerating? What behaviors am I accepting from myself that are keeping me stuck? You can't fix what you refuse to confront. And until you raise your minimums, you'll never reach your maximums. So if you want a better life, don't start with a vision board. Start with a mirror. Hold yourself accountable. Show up on time. Do what you said you'd do. Stay longer. Learn more. Get sharper. Not once in a while, but as a way of being. Because when you raise your standard, you stop chasing potential and start living it. And here's the kicker. Your future isn't waiting on luck. It's waiting on your decision to expect more from yourself. So raise it every day in every area, because your standard today is shaping who you become tomorrow. The world owes you nothing. And that's a gift. It's a hard truth, but one of the most freeing realizations you'll ever come to. See, the moment you stop expecting the world to hand you something is the moment you start creating everything. We live in a time where entitlement is dressed up as ambition, where people believe they deserve success just for wanting it, as if life is obligated to reward you because you've struggled. But life doesn't respond to need. It responds to effort, to standards, to discipline, and more importantly, to ownership. I once met a young man who kept saying, "I deserve more. I've been through so much." And I looked him in the eyes and said, "You're right. You've been through hell. But life doesn't hand out trophies for survival. It rewards transformation. Struggle isn't your credential. What you do with that struggle is. And when you accept that the world owes you nothing, you stop waiting. You stop blaming. You stop hoping someone's going to save you. You take back your power. That's the gift. Because if the world owed you something, you'd be stuck waiting on it. Stuck in a loop of disappointment, resentment, and dependency. But when you realize no one's coming, you become the one who shows up. You pick yourself up. You build your own doors instead of knocking on someone else's. You stop asking for permission, for applause, for validation, and you earn your place with sweat, sacrifice, and unshakable consistency. Psychologically, this is where the shift happens. Victimhood says, "I can't because of them." Ownership says, "I will despite them." The first keeps you powerless. The second makes you unstoppable. History is full of people who were owed nothing, but built everything. Think of Oprah Winfrey, born into poverty, abused, overlooked, no special favors, no guarantees. But she didn't say, "The world owes me." She said, "Watch me." And now, she's not just a name. She's a symbol of what happens when ownership replaces entitlement. And what about you? What are you still waiting for? An apology? An opportunity? A break? Let me tell you something. The moment you stop waiting is the moment your life begins. No one owes you love, respect, success, not even fairness. But that's not the tragedy. The tragedy is living your whole life believing it was someone else's job to give you what you were always capable of building. So build, and be proud of that. Because when you rise with no applause, no shortcut, no handout, you own that victory. The world owes you nothing. And that is your greatest advantage. Because once you stop expecting something from the world, you start demanding more from yourself. And that, my friend, is where real power begins. Here's the hard truth. Nobody cares until you make them. Nobody watches a climb, only the victory. So what are you going to do? Wait to be noticed? Or build until you can't be ignored? Hide behind your excuses? Or rise through your execution? Because at the end of the day, it's you versus you. And the world is just watching, waiting to see if you're serious this time. So prove them wrong. No more talking. It's your time to build, quietly, relentlessly, until nobody can deny you. The moment you stop chasing respect is the moment you start commanding it.